the Femsplainers. I'm Christina Hoff-Summers.
Oh, and I'm Danielle Crittenden.
Don't make fun of me. I'm recovering from a cold.
You had laryngitis.
I know. It's been 4 days, so I thought I could manage, but I'm not sure.
Oh, you got it in Houston over Thanksgiving, right?
I think you get these things on airplanes.
Should put nose plugs in or something, and
one of those masks.
When
I see people in them, and I always think they have the Ebola virus that they've been brought in from a remote part of the globe. I don't like to do that, but
but poor you. Well, you're a real hero. You're one of America's heroes, really, for coming in and doing the podcast.
I know.
What professionalism looks like, people. That's what it looks like.
But I feel like, what is that character, Mimi in La Boheme?
You're not.
Tragic.
There's no phlegm, though. Fortunately, not yet.
We won't talk about
body parts.
No body parts.
Body emissions.
Oh. I don't like the names of illnesses. Laryngitis. Moving on.
Phlegm.
That's the worst word.
Phlegm.
Moist phlegm.
Okay. All right. So how was your Thanksgiving? You were gaming how you were going to deal with Tamler, your stepson, who every year you get drunk and you go on his podcast drunk. I just personally wouldn't let you on at that level of drunkenness. I know we drink around here, but
because we'd had champagne.
And then you fight.
We like to fight. And we set it up to fight, but we had there were people that were there, kind of audience, while he suddenly brings out the podcast. Late at night, we've all been drinking, and I think the audience was shocked because they thought that it was going to be some little friendly mother-son exchange, and instead, we had this idea that we would take each other's part. So he would be Christina, concerned about the culture war.
Right, because the premise is always that you're concerned about the culture war and he poo-poos it, right?
Yeah, he says, I'm exaggerating. It's not as bad as I say.
And this year you'd gone in with a tactic.
That didn't work. Forget that. I was going to show him overreacting by bringing up Deflategate.
Right.
About Tom Brady.
Right.
But I didn't do it. I forgot to do it. Oh. I had a list. I had notes, and they made fun of my notes, and my notes made no sense. So, anyway, so Tamler, so I thought, okay, I'm going to really get him with the My Fair Lady, because he loves My Fair Lady. So I said...
the new politically correct ending or whatever it was. To be fair, maybe even the original ending where Eliza Doolittle does not marry...
That was the original ending, but even everyone rebelled and turned it into a happy ending from the beginning. They didn't indulge George Bernard Shaw's misanthropy and anti-romantic...
So you tried to get Tamler on this?
I tried to get him on that. And so then he was going to take my part on the My Fair Lady. And what he did was imitate a cranky old lady saying, "Oh, I can't believe they've changed the ending of My Fair Lady. What's the world coming to?" Anyway, so that, I don't know.
So did he win? Did that
win? No, I got him on another one because then we were debating how the critics had reacted to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And
we loved it.
Which we loved. And he did too. And I said, I pointed to this reporter at Slate as an example who thought it was just reinforced misogyny and male dominance. And it was really kind of the poster for the NRA. But he denied that the critics were saying that. And then I had it set, my cell phone was set on the podcast, and I played her voice saying these ridiculous things. And then he was like, "Oh, my God, you set me up for this." It was like one of these 60 minutes.
You got him. You gotcha interview.
But
everyone's drunk.
Everyone's drunk. None of it may have made any sense. My notes made no sense. And the crowd, they were stone-faced. Nobody was laughing. They were kind of shocked. So it was a disaster. I'm going to sue him if he releases the podcast.
So it's not, you can't hear it yet.
Not yet. He's editing it.
Oh, editing, quote unquote. He'll take out the gotcha question. I bet.
know. If the gotcha question isn't there, that I've been set up, and I'm already planning my return next year. I have a plan.
Yeah, well, we had a plan, and clearly you got to watch the drinking strategy. It's wrecking your
here
arguing.
she goes.
No, it's just wrecking your arguing game.
No, I didn't. Well, okay. Moving on.
Still that smug sober person.
I didn't say it.
Smug sober person.
The smug sobers.
LaCroix. Well, ours
I'm
was
having tea.
well,
Explainer tea.
ours was very civilized because, as you know, we are Canadian, so we don't have the whole extended family coming in. Of course, we celebrate. We're converts to Americanism, but we don't have to deal with, except my out-of-town kids, which is great. They came in, and we all played that game.
Celebrity.
We played Celebrity, which is really the best game because we had some friends drop by, our friend Ann Applebaum and her kids who speak Polish. So the way you played it, and I remember I had to text you for the rules.
Yeah, and it caused a big trouble because we were just about to sit down to dinner, and I get in trouble in that house if
We're
I'm
going on
online. Get her off. I have to tell them how to play Celebrity. So I can't type fast. So David took it and told you how to play. And if you need to know what he wrote was, just have a group of people, and you have to write down the name of somebody that at least two of you know. Could be a celebrity.
Could be a family member.
Could be a family member. It
Friend.
could be the plumber. Two of you have to know.
Right. And then everybody puts two names into a bowl.
You put all of the names in the bowl.
And then there are three, and you divide yourself into teams.
2 teams.
And then each team takes turns pulling names out of the bowl.
You pull a name, and then you have to get people to guess it.
Right. But the first round you can speak. The second round you can say one word.
No, the second round you do.
And then the third round you
do
have to
charades
do
with no
charades and you have to act out. But it gets really funny, especially because
it gets violent. People overreact, especially Tamler and David.
Yeah, it was more, I have to say, no offense to David Summers, but people did not get as upset this round.
Yeah, David brings it a lot. He gets that from his brother.
He gets his head in the Celebrity game. But we had observers, and they did like a Polish race car driver.
Yeah, so what do you do when you get the Polish race car driver?
Well, that's easy to charade, but the funny thing is you have to memoralize them. So
and then
when
you
it
have
comes,
to know it the next time.
I put in Chef Boyardee.
That's pretty good.
But
I would just say...
Somebody put in Milton Friedman. Somebody put in Milton Friedman. Like, that's a tough one. But anyway, it was fun. So it was very civilized. Didn't get sick at all so far, touch wood.
I'm trying. We played a game. It was like apples to apples. Do you know that?
No.
Everybody knows that. Oh,
Apples to apples.
well, maybe that wasn't the name.
Sounds like grapes to grapes, wine glass to wine glass.
And another thing about the podcast, there were edibles involved. Not with me. But I think with Tamler.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You know, my birthday is not my birthday's famous, but it's famously amongst us on 4/20, April 20th.
Hitler's birthday.
I know, it's Hitler's. Everything that goes wrong can. There's been horrible shootings on my birthday. Oklahoma bombing. Columbine was on my birthday.
Jack the Ripper.
I don't know that Jack the Ripper was on my birthday. But now, and then the kids, it wasn't until my kids were teenagers and they started snickering, your birthday's on 4/20. And I was like, what does that mean? And then they told me everybody gets high on 4/20. So this year, or this coming year, it's going to be 4/20/20, which is supposed to be a big year for potheads. And my kids are saying I should get high on my birthday. And I have not been high since high school. Marijuana was never my thing.
It was never my thing, and I do try it sometimes. I used to try it just because I wanted a cigarette. I would just smoke it, because I had quit smoking, and I wanted to have a cigarette. But it messes up your mind.
No, all I remember doing is like laughing hysterically at stupid things and then eating a lot of Doritos. That's all I remember.
See, I would,
what's the point of that?
I would take it if I laughed. I get paranoid and sleepy.
Well, I haven't done it since I was like literally 14. So I'm thinking, maybe this is the year to try it, but we'll see. That's coming up in 2020, not for some time. But anyway, our guest today, because you're so sick. I can't keep you
sick.
talking. But we have a very chatty guest coming in. It's our friend Molly Jong-Fast, who is a contributor to The Daily Beast, to Glamour, and Playboy, also The Bulwark. She's just a marvelous gossip. She seems to just know everybody. She lives in New York, but she's been doing all this reporting and breaking stories, and we'll talk about when she's
a great writer.
She's a great
very
writer.
Lively.
She's a great Twitter feed.
Very popular Twitter feed.
Very popular Twitter feed. But she's just, you can just sit in her company, and when she comes to D.C., she shows up at my house, and she usually has like the Polish army with her. She has friends coming, and then everybody eats, and it's great fun. But she just is such a fabulous gossip. So
God, she has more Twitter followers than me.
How many Twitter followers does she have?
She has 363,000, and
them are fighting words in.
No, but
room.
I have to. It's interesting because I think there's a conspiracy against me, and I want this investigated. I have 299.1.
Yeah,
and it's been like that for 2 weeks. That never happens.
Oh, well, we've got to do something to make you go viral. Should we just say something?
Everybody just follow at CH Summers all at once. And then
follow at Femsplainers, please.
And at Femsplainers. And don't follow Molly because I want to all right, I'm going to try to catch up with her.
All right.
But I can't because I'm on some Twitter
I think
sabotage.
There is a conspiracy. You know what? I think it's coming from the Trump administration.
They want to silence me.
Why? Because everybody wants to silence
maybe it's because
Christina.
I have the Yang Gang symbol next to my phone.
Oh, that could be yeah. Okay, well, we'll look into it. But anyway, we're going to welcome Molly Jong. Molly Jong-Fast is on her way back to New York. She's stopping by our studio. And before we welcome her in here, just thank you for everyone stepping up to the Patreon. We've got more patrons. Every episode, we get more patrons, which we love. Thank you. We're implementing our new, if you donate $10 a month, you get our secret after show rant. We're called She's Had Enough. And we get to go on a drunken rage thing. Apparently that's a lot of fun. People want to hear that, especially yours, Christina. It was started for you because you had so many things you needed to get off your chest.
Irritate the hell out of me.
Irritate the hell.
Like they tried to cancel Gauguin. Well, people are thinking that he exploited children, and never mind.
All right, save it. Well, save it. That's a preview. That's a sneak preview. Boy. But anyway,
you know what? Go ahead, cancel him. It's your world. It's your life. You want to fine.
No,
I don't care.
No.
Okay,
wait. That's extra content. That's bonus content. Okay. So anyway, Patreon /Femsplainer, patreon.com/Femsplainers. Please help us. We still haven't met our costs for the podcast, so we appreciate every nickel. Thank you. And we'll have a quick break to a commercial, which we wouldn't have to do if we had enough patrons. We could go ad-free, but we love our commercial sponsors too. So we'll be right back with Molly Jong-Fast. Well, Christina, you know how you and I guess we could be called lamp or lighting fanatics, that you've admitted on this podcast into actually changing light bulbs in hotel rooms because you didn't like.
Or just turning them off completely. I can't bear this harsh light that you get from these, what are they called? These, I don't know.
The hotel, but also I have like dimmers on all my, I consider lighting
everything
so key to everything, to mood, to how we look. And with all the money we spend to make our homes beautiful, often we don't put enough thought into good lighting. But Lamps Plus has been helping customers love their everyday spaces for over 40 years with chandeliers, ceiling lights, table lamps, and more. As they say, light itself is like jewelry for the home. I guess that's why you have pink bulbs.
I always use pink bulbs.
In any
Looks
case,
like candlelight.
it does look like candlelight, and these are like beautiful candle holders. Lamps Plus is the nation's largest lighting retailer with over 55,000 designs from top brands and their own exclusive designs in lighting, home furnishings, and decor. They also have a large selection of Minka Lavery lighting to transform your home into wonderful living areas. Minka Lavery is known for designs that blend function and style using innovative materials. And now, with people coming for the holidays and you want to spruce your house up, you can get up to 50% off hundreds of lights, furniture, and decor up through December 24th. That's up to 50% off during the Lamps Plus holiday sale now through December 24th. You go to Lamps Plus, that's Lamps plural, LAMPS plus.com/ and use the code FEMSPLAIN to start saving today. That's lampsplus.com/FEMSPLAIN.
Go to lampsplus.com/femsplain to start saving today. lampsplus.com/femsplain.
Jewelry for your home. Well, look who washed up in our studio. Molly Jong-Fast is with us. You just come to Washington from New York now so often. I usually have to feed you and some of your friends when you come through. You somehow wash up on my doorstep at dinner time.
Yes. Well, you know.
Defrost the extra chicken. I think.
She's a very good cook. I was thinking you should give recipes occasionally on the podcast.
She did a cookbook.
Yeah, well, I did it with
I know she did a cookbook,
Anne.
but still recipes on the podcast.
Well, I could, we're thinking of doing for our patrons a newsletter. So maybe I was going to do like a weekly cocktail recipe, but we could also
We
throw
have
in
a lot of
food
young
pairings.
men that listen.
That's true.
And they need simple, recipes that can't go wrong.
I once wrote a piece that was so politically incorrect, even at its time. But it was around cooking, and maybe I'll just tell you what it was, and you can agree or disagree. Although I'm thinking now I would gear this advice more to men. But I said, if a woman really likes a guy and wants to kind of hook him,
Reel him in.
impress him, reel him in, what she should do, not obviously on the first date, but like date 3, invite him over and cook a stew or a roast. Because first of all, such things are great and delicious.
Right.
Nobody gets home-cooked meals.
Right.
And it would just be the most magical thing. But that would be crazy sexist because it would imply that women should cook for men. But I'm thinking now the advice should go the other way.
Right. Yes.
And men
Should cook for women.
especially because chefs now, it's kind of a trendy, manly thing.
Well, also it's cool to have
Right.
to have a guy cook for you. It's kind of fabulous.
Well, and also there's this sort of knife show, the display of, skills, especially if you do something you carve,
Right.
that's very...
That's amazing.
But I actually, that was the piece of advice I gave my son very early on. He remembered it. I didn't. But he said, I had told him that the way to get girls was to be able to cook. And he said, it's true.
And I taught both my sons to make a perfect Parisian vinaigrette.
Ooh,
And it's
You just need one dish, actually. You need 1 to 2 dishes, and you're good.
perfect vinaigrette, and then an easy, just it can't go wrong chicken recipe.
Right.
And that would be my lemon chicken.
Roast chicken. Anyway,
that chicken was good last night. Really good.
it was a kind of mock coq au vin.
It was very good.
Basically just took chicken and cooked it in red wine.
It was very good.
Basically what I did. Okay, but we have Molly in because she, as I know, you've been coming to D.C. You're becoming a little bit of a Brenda Starr girl reporter. You're breaking these scoops, and last week's was Linda Page.
Yeah.
How did you get her to talk to you?
Yeah, you got her to open up.
So I have a little bit of an untraditional background, right? I was a fiction writer in my late teens and early 20s, and I wrote a bunch of novels, and I had all these children. Then I went back to writing, and I started writing op-eds. So I come from an opinion side and not from a journalism side, which is important to realize. And I think it informs, a lot of conservative journalists wouldn't necessarily tell you that, but I think that it's an important thing, even though I'm actually probably not as liberal as a lot of the Trumpy media thinks I am, because I write for the Never Trumpers. I have, I'm a contributor.
You write for the Bulwark,
at the
right?
Bulwark, yeah,
But they're conservatives, right?
Right. So I'm saying, in Trumpy media, I'm painted as this like very zealotous liberal, but I'm actually, in certain ways not. But what happened with Lisa was,
Wait a minute, before we even go any further, I was just with my family in Houston for Thanksgiving. Nobody's watching the hearings. Nobody knows who Lisa Page is.
Yes. Let me give her
the
a background.
low information American. And they're college professors.
Yeah. So let me give you a little background on Lisa Page. Lisa Page is, I actually think a lot of the Trump people know who she is because Trump talks about her a lot.
Right. She's
even
probably
now.
a star of Fox News.
Yeah. No, she is. And in fact,
That would be people over 65.
well, Trump in his rallies talks about her and Peter Strzok a lot. And they had an affair, and they had it on
Not Trump and Lisa Page. Peter Strzok, and they were
Strzok and
FBI
Lisa Page.
agents.
He was an FBI agent. She was a lawyer.
Right.
FBI lawyer. They had an affair on government phones. Now, they were encouraged to use government phones because they were secure, so
people having an affair would...
Well, everybody used them because they didn't want you to toggle back and forth because they were worried you could make a mistake and do work stuff on your home phone, which you're not supposed to do because it's not secure. That is a little nugget that's not out there and that I think is important to realize when you, so they're having this affair. They have lots of texts back and forth. A lot of them are political about their opinions and this and that. A lot of them are like, can't get past the paywall on that Wall Street Journal piece. I mean, a lot of them are like setting up appointments. I mean, they're not, but an amount of them are leaked the day after Mike Flynn pleads guilty and the day before Rod Rosenstein goes to speak to testify at the Hill. And they're leaked by the DOJ. And that is known. So, and during that time, also, the story of the affair is given to the Washington Post and the New York Times. And they write, New York Times doesn't cover the affair, but they cover these leaked texts. They're both, Strzok is fired. And Strzok is like very senior at the FBI. He has trained a huge number of agents. And
He looks like the deputy counterintelligence.
Right. Yeah. And he has been there a long time and trained a lot of agents and is extremely good at his job and very, I would say he's very, the FBI is a complicated place from what I understand from all of this, but he's very liked and, respected and known, as is Lisa. These texts come out and all of a sudden they become, kind of weaponized by Trump. And he's reading them and he's talking about them and he starts sort of, with all of the crazy conspiracy theories about them. Now, I don't know if those conspiracy theories, they come from the Trumpy media, from the Gateway Pundit types. And she can't defend herself because she's still at the FBI. He can't defend himself because he's still at the FBI. So they just are quiet. The FBI makes it clear that they're not going to defend them. Mm-hmm. And she told me that. That's a quote. And so they end up just being maligned by Trump. And now she had always thought that eventually he would sort of lose interest in her and stop doing it. And that's why, because she's a lawyer, she's like not a person who wants to be a celebrity. Mm-hmm. She's just a woman who I actually find her very impressive because she's completely self-made. She comes from very humble beginnings. She's created this great academic career for herself, and then she went on and she was the only woman in her year in the honors program, like very accomplished. So she hoped that if she just didn't say anything, he would stop doing it. And then he had this fake orgasm at a rally.
This was fairly recently, right?
In Michigan in October, where he faked an orgasm while saying her name, which I think he thought...
Was he reading a line from the text?
He was like... He was just like... It was terrible.
Yeah.
And she was really... she was really horrified. I mean, really horrified. And she was like, he's never going to stop and he's never going to leave me alone. So a little bit later than that, someone I met at your house, I contacted him because I knew he knew them. And I said, you should give her my number. I've interviewed Kathy Griffin. I've interviewed E. Jean Carroll. I know a lot of these women who've had their lives ruined by Trump. So I've seen how it affects people. You should let me talk to her. And I said, she's obviously been through, who can, and it was, and actually right after right after Roger Stone had that guilty verdict, he tweeted about Page and Strzok and said, why aren't they in jail?
Yeah.
Right?
But just to get into a little deeper here.
Yeah.
So the special counsel, Robert Mueller, fired Strzok and Page after he found the text messages because it wasn't just love talk. They would say
political. It was
political.
And
for example, Page writes to her friend Strzok, Trump's not ever going to be president, right? Right? And then he replies, no, he's not. Well, stop it.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, do you know how many times I wrote to my husband in the fall of October 2015, Trump's not going to be president, right? I mean, I
think it's the ominous "will stop
We'll stop it.
But you weren't investigating.
Right.
She was an FBI agent. And
she was not an agent. She was a lawyer.
Not an agent. She's a lawyer.
Right.
But she's high up in the investigation.
But she got exonerated from the IG, and
she got exonerated, but she was reprimanded for
the
poor
text.
judgment. Yeah.
Right. But again, they saw when they looked at the Hillary investigation of emails, they showed that the two of them had actually been more aggressive than anyone else. So I think what's interesting about this case is Trump doesn't see, he doesn't understand government servants. These people went to the government to serve.
They do their job.
Right. They know their job.
I will say, to me,
Right.
It sounded like they were just bullshitting,
Well,
kind of talking. But it does sound very bad. And it wasn't the only one.
Right.
There was another one where he talked about insurance policy.
Right. There were two.
Sounded sinister.
Right. There were two, and they did sound sinister. And they shouldn't have. Right. Of course, the one thing I will say, and look, this is not a hill that I have a particular, I'm more just, even if she had done something really wrong, which I am not convinced she did, the president of the United States has destroyed her life. And that, I think, is more of the issue. That said,
well,
because he just talks about her all the time.
Right.
And
you can imagine. With his personality, when he feels persecuted, now
he talks about her. He hears all the time.
FBI. Yeah,
right. I mean, he still talks about her and tweets about her. But the thing I was going to say was, she had, I don't. Look, I don't. That was dumb, and they shouldn't have. And I don't. I can't speak to the larger
Did you ask her about that?
The text?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know. Yeah. Why she had the text?
Yeah.
They were two, wait, why she wrote the text?
Yeah, or the context of the text from.
How did they explain? Well, I actually remember he was asked, Peter Strzok, about it. And he said, well, I just meant that the American people would vote him out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know what. She didn't write that part. Those. There's so many things going on here, but I can't speak to their psychological frame of mind. I do know they both worked really hard to really, push the Hillary email as much as possible, and they really investigated, and they investigated the Trump stuff, and it didn't, they found no appearance of bias actions.
Well, didn't she one message that made me laugh is that she saw someone, Elisa Page saw someone with a Bernie Sanders bumper sticker, and she texts her friend, "Oh God, Bernie Sanders supporter. I want to key his car."
Right, but what does that have to do? Like,
no, I mean they were making fun of everybody in those texts.
It's true, but it's also like the fact that they were leaked, right, and that they were not. I mean.
And
this is the point. There was this huge breach of privacy.
Right.
Breach of privacy? I don't know. I mean, they were on a government, program. It's everything is.
But they're not supposed to. You can't really. If you want to FOIA them, first of all, they would have to make them not. They would have had to, like. They could have FOIA'd them 6 months from now, for sure. Freedom of information, where they called for it, where they wrote to them, for sure. And they could have even released them to members of Congress, and those members of Congress could have leaked it. And that would have actually been, that's what happened. But what happened here was these were DOJ released. Journalists told they couldn't source the. I mean, there just was a lot of stuff that happened here, and then the FBI decided not to protect them. Now, look. You go into the FBI, you do that by choice, and you know that you're working for a larger government agency and what's going to happen
and
to you.
I sort of worry about FBI agents who are carrying on an affair on their official. That actually makes me lose faith in the FBI. You'd think they'd have a better disappearing ink or something like that.
I mean, look, the minutia of it is, I think my feeling is that what happened to what they did and their faults in it, which are obviously exist and are obviously problematic, and that they were chastised for, and she's acknowledged, and he's acknowledged, and then that those things are still, even if they had done all those things, the president of the United States should not ruin people's lives. And that, I think, is a larger, non-controversial statement there. He's ruining their lives. He's tweeting about her. He's pretending to have orgasms about her. She has 2 small children. And he also does this to a lot of different women. Remember E. Jean Carroll? I never met her before in my life, right? Then there's a picture of him with E. Jean Carroll. I mean no disrespect when I say this. She's not my type.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this.
No, it's horrible.
And Christine Blasey Ford. I mean, she was confused. What?
Well, no, wait. In that
Ted
case,
Cruz's wife.
Wait. In the Blasey Ford, I think it was Kavanaugh who was publicly shamed with very little evidence.
No, but the physical.
I think that we're getting Trump. No, I know you're talking about Trump, but I think what he's doing is playing a game that has now been, made legitimate. Is just humiliating people publicly.
But women.
And with a special...
And men.
No, but a special... He has a special...
Are you kidding? Men are now...
But we're talking about Trump here. We're not talking about... We're just talking about the most powerful man in America.
I think that's what we forget.
I agree that it's just about Trump. I mean, except that I'm saying he didn't invent this game.
Right. No, well, no.
He plays it harder than anyone.
Well, no, and he's also normalized it. I think it's fair to say.
I mean, when you are the most important... most powerful man and leader of the free world, and you are picking on a woman who is not even in the government employ and hasn't been for 18 months and is just a lawyer.
No, he is a bully and he's dangerous.
I think the other thing that's desensitized us in this shows is that we're reading these as news stories, and you met this woman and you sat down and had coffee with her, and we're not. It's like watching the other Justin Trudeau, the world leaders, laughing at Trump it's a joke. But, he, as you say, he is the leader of the free world. Yeah. You have the president of the United States. So just imagine, being the object of that man's Twitter feed. And that's what, I mean, it's amazing we're not having more suicides or, witness protection program, because this is terrifying and horrible.
Yovanovitch talked about it, Marie Yovanovitch, during that testimony, when...
She was the former ambassador to the Ukraine.
Who got fired and who was just a very competent public servant, nonpartisan.
Right.
And And Adam Schiff read that email to her, that Trump tweet, and she said it's very intimidating.
Right, that he tweeted while she was talking.
Right. And no, I think it's very intimidating. And I think that what Paige said to me afterwards is that it has a chilling effect on the FBI.
And all public servants coming forward.
Right. So people don't want to go out on a limb because they're worried about what might happen to them. And sure, that's okay. So they're not going to investigate Republicans. So you think, well, all right, whatever. But that affects everything. If people don't feel safe in their government offices, you're not going to have, the FBI is not going to do the FBI's job. And what I think is going to happen is I think we're going to end up with this. These people are scared. They don't want to lose their jobs. I mean, we saw this with Pompeo. Like they're trying to protect themselves. They're trying to survive.
Well, one of the things we had Elizabeth Drew on the program a few episodes ago. She, the legendary Washington reporter,
right.
And she was talking. She had covered the Nixon impeachment, and we sort of talked about, well, was it scarier then or now in terms of the president of the United States being up to stuff, and how did you feel threatened as a reporter? And she said she felt that it was scarier then because Nixon seemed to be personally targeting reporters in a way like you would leave your house and there would be a car parked there clearly watching you.
Yeah.
But I don't enemies list.
Yeah. Right. But I don't I think it's a sort of context because is it any less scary for a president to be tweeting about you and knowing that he's got people who follow him and want to harm you, like the Pizzagate guy who came in to the Washington pizzeria and was going to shoot up the place? That I don't know that that's actually less intimidating, and I don't know that lives are being less destroyed. And what you talk about also is the unfathomable or the unknowable factor of people who are not doing things or coming forward or are scared to do their job in an effective way. And those are the things that are going on now that we won't know about possibly for years until it starts to come out.
Yeah, that will be, I think, very interesting to see what happens with there's so much corruption on so many levels, but the chilling of the federal government is going to be, I think, will be a long time to unravel. The one thing I would say just about these people who've had this experience is these women have this kind of PTSD. I don't want to say PTSD because I feel like it's been...
say it because everybody has it now.
Right. Well, I feel like it's been very overly used, but they have... And I've even seen and E. Jean is really tough. Like, she's very
This is the woman who was purportedly raped in Bergdorf Goodman.
She's very tough.
Dressing room.
And just from the, people coming at them on the internet and trolling them and sending them death threats, they have this kind of crumbly quality to them where you sort of... It is, I think, is a very kind of unnerving thing that happens.
But if she doesn't want attention, why would she do the interview and has her photograph? I wouldn't have known what she looked like.
Lisa Page?
Yeah.
Because he kept tweeting about her. The reason to do this article is not to get attention. The reason to do this article is because she's never said any of this stuff. And so when he says... People, all of his people were like, she's a Russian spy. She's involved in da-da-da. She's a treasonous traitor. You read this story, she's not a Russian spy. She's not a traitor. She wasn't even involved in, she's an FBI lawyer. She was Andy McCabe's chief of staff. She was involved with what Andy McCabe did. The idea, but he had this narrative going that she was like a deep state operative. And until she said anything, everyone believed his narrative. And that's not to say, but he controlled the whole news story. He controlled all of it. And I think that if anything with this, it shows why you do want to come forward, because people the people who knew her were the Trumpy people who were sending her death threats. And the people in this media is so bifurcated that the people who read the New York Times really didn't know anything about her except what Trump had put out there. So I think this was a very good move for her. I don't think she's going to do any more stuff because this is not who she is. And I think she should because she's very smart and a good writer. But if you look at the men who've come forward, or these men who've had their careers torpedoed by Trump, and there are a lot of these men, Mattis, and, very smart, a lot of them have gone off and done books when they had this opportunity to say there's something really wrong in the White House. And instead, they did these books where they made money and they never really said anything substantive and they didn't take on Trumpism. So I'm just saying, like, what she did, she's not making any money from this. She's not doing that. She's just...
What did Peter... Has he continued... I mean, he continues to demonize Peter Strzok.
Yes.
And I mean, what's happened to Peter?
Peter I think Peter is sort of the worst off because he was, he had a McCabe thing where he was fired and didn't get his pension. And
Trump's making fun. I mean, when Trump is doing, faking this passionate exchange, he's making fun of Peter too.
Right. But not
it's
in
Peter
a
talking.
Sexualized way.
Well, no, it's Peter taught Peter. Oh, Lisa, I love you. I mean,
but he says, lovely Lisa, Lisa the lover.
Yeah.
I mean, he's much more
creepy.
I mean, I think he's creepy about both of them.
I'm creepy about both of them as well.
Let's now that we've got you in the studio, let's go on and talk about other Washington things while you're here, because before you go back to New York and have to deal with New York things. I always love hearing your takes on what's going on in D.C. And one of the things that came out last week is this so-called unauthorized biography on Melania called Free Melania. And it's, Sorry. Right. Okay, this is a book. It's by Kate Bennett, who's a CNN reporter and has followed and covered the First Lady for, probably from the beginning. And here are some of the revelations. So I want everybody to brace themselves, okay?
The first one is triggering.
Okay. Melania spent 5 months on a decor project. Okay?
Because no other First Lady ever did that.
No, it says the author, this is The Guardian, by the way, this is from, did a great summary of the big takeaways that you might have missed. So apparently, she spent a lot of time on a decorating project because she doesn't have other skills, like other more accomplished skills like previous First Ladies.
Right.
It brings up this story that Trump himself used to phone reporters disguised in his voice as a PR guy. We knew this. This is so old news.
Yeah.
And I don't see what that has to do with Melania. That maybe Melania is just private, that the reason she's quiet is because she's simply a private person. Okay. Wow, that's shocking. And then another one is the jacket that Melania wore, that was famous Zara jacket when she was getting to go visit migrant child detention centers. She wore a jacket that says, "I really don't care, do you?"
Yeah.
So what did we learn about this? Well, the book speculates that the jacket slogan wasn't directed at the poor migrant children she was going to visit, but directed at Ivanka. Because reportedly Melania was mad that Ivanka had taken all the credit for Trump's softening stance on immigration, when actually it was Melania who got him to calm down. But there's no evidence for that. That's just what the author's speculating. And then Melania's really down to earth. Oh, and this was the other big one. The book reveals that Trump and Melania sleep in separate rooms. According to the author, Melania sleeps in a room on the 3rd floor of the executive residence where Michelle Obama's mother lived during the Obama presidency, and Trump reportedly sleeps in the master bedroom on the 1st floor.
Maybe he snores.
But there's nothing in here. Like, that's it. That's all we
what did
learned.
You expect?
I don't know. I mean, this is sad. It's like she's followed her. I mean, she is an enigma, this First Lady. We don't really know now. We all want to know about how that marriage really worked. Yeah. There's been some speculation that in order to get her to move down from New York, they like re-upped the prenup agreement.
Yeah, that they met in my I heard that in Mar-a-Lago, and they did a post-op.
Do you have any evidence?
I don't have any evidence of that.
And then there's been rumors. Then there's been rumors that she actually lives in a house in Northern Virginia with her parents and Barron, and they don't come in. But then reporters have been on that trying to, prove it. But
in a White House full of dramatic, unpredictable, chaotic personalities, she seems to be a center of calm and mystery.
I don't know how much English she understands. I don't mean that I don't know if she's completely...
Well, they say she speaks 5 languages, but then people I know who speak the languages that she purportedly speaks says, in fact, when she's displayed those languages, like in Italy, that it's very basic. She doesn't, in fact, speak 5 languages.
Well, I mean, she comes from Europe. A lot of Europeans speak a lot of language. Well, she comes from Eastern Europe, right? But a lot of people, like in Europe and Eastern Europe, do speak a lot of languages. She just always looks kind of lost to me. In a sort of sympathetic way, but she doesn't. There's a sense like I always wonder, what.
Well, I wish we'd found out more in this book.
Yeah, no, this book seems to be nothing. But I think the first lady job, it always just gets like, oh, it's like the second. It's like. It's somehow demeaning, you can be a Michelle Obama, you can make something great of it, but in the end, it's kind of second fiddle. I've always thought it's one of the greatest jobs.
You'd make a great
in the world.
Make a great first lady.
But imagine being in this situation.
Some great first ladies. I mean, even I think the Bush first ladies were good. I thought Michelle Obama did a really good job. There've been a bunch of good. I mean, I think there have been a bunch of good first ladies.
Well, think about it. As much as the detractors will say, "Oh, it's a fishbowl. You can't really do anything." You're put. Very few of us get put in a position where we can actually do epic good.
Yeah.
Like really effective. Whatever we decide to focus on, it works. We get to dress really fabulously when we want, and we can have anybody to the White House in the world. Like you can have the best experts, the most talented people. I mean, you can make it a showcase for American talent, and which is what Jackie Onassis did, like having those concerts and
I am always grateful to President Johnson's first lady. She made Washington beautiful. Lady Bird. We have all the wildflowers and the daffodils, and she planted. She had a wildflower project. I've been to Austin, Texas, and seen the sort of a foundation that sponsors that. And Washington is beautiful, partly because of her.
And Michelle Obama did the vegetable garden. I mean, you can influence a culture.
She had a serious mulching system.
Right.
And I looked up mulching this week because I'm very involved in my garden, and I thought I would mulch. It's really hard.
Yeah, I was hoping you weren't mulching on your own. It's like big bags of chips.
But there's an opportunity there to really influence the culture. But I don't think she ever wanted to be first lady.
No, and
I read that she was absolutely crestfallen the night that he won. She cried.
Right. I read that story too. So I don't know. It's certainly possible that.
But is it wrong that we're not allowed? I feel like we can't criticize her, that we're supposed to feel sorry for her, that we're supposed to feel that she's like the title of the book, Free Melania, she's trapped in this sort of loveless marriage where her husband is publicly cheated on her and it's humiliating, but she's maintained this aura of grace. And
I kind of wish she would. I kind of wish that the culture were such that she could just
break out
and leave him. He's clearly, they've worked out something where she's not going to leave because it would be bad for him or whatever. But wouldn't it be fun if it were a culture where they could be like, been married a long time, he's cheated on me, and then that she could just sort of pack up and leave and nobody would give her
Well, I think, honestly, that would be better. And I think we do live in a time where she could do that and actually she'd get a lot of support.
She would.
What I think is I mean, can I just say, I think she's been the worst first lady. I can't say in the history of first ladies, because I know there's been, you know.
Mamie Eisenhower.
Yeah,
you have definitely felt with her that she never wanted this and she wants out.
Right.
Which is not a good feeling in a first lady.
No, and given how, and then the sort of tin ear, that given the divisiveness and everything that's going on, and she starts a anti-bullying campaign.
That seems
and then also when anyone criticizes her or anybody, she comes at them and she threatens them and remember.
I like your East.
Remember Julia Yaffe was on and you got threatened by Melania after she read the GQ article and she goes and no,
Did
Julia.
Melania write to her?
No, she was on the phone and
she called her on the phone.
Yeah, and Julia Yaffe said this perfect imitation. She said, I have a team of lawyers ready to go. She's like
really?
him, and apparently this is where she maybe is a good mob wife.
Right.
She's fiercely loyal.
Fierce, yeah.
You know, I can hate him, not sleep with him, but don't you?
Yeah.
You know.
It's true. Julia Yaffe is such a good writer. Can we just talk about what a good writer she is?
Yeah, she's a great reporter.
Good writer. I never met her, but I almost met her at your house.
Yeah, she's been through our house. You'll get one of these times you show up on the door. I'll make sure.
All of the really fun people go to the From House. Yeah, it's very key when you wander into Washington.
The salon.
And Ann Applebaum, everyone's smart.
She's our house guest at the moment.
Every time I talk to her, I'm like, I would like to record. There are a couple people where you go to your house and you think, oh, this person's so smart. Just talk at me. It's making me smarter.
Well, I'm just sort of, I didn't realize you'd gotten your contact for Lisa Page at my house.
Yes.
What was I doing? Was I in the kitchen with the chicken?
Well, no, I just met that person and then
later you're going to tell us.
Yeah, later you're going to tell us.
But yes, I met that person and then I just said to him,
Was that person me?
Yes, it was you.
And Lisa Page.
And then it wasn't, this is the thing with all this. I had to win her and tell her that she could, I had to win
her trust.
Yeah,
earn her trust.
Right. Remember, this is a person who's had all of the worst of media and none of the upside, which she continued. And, when you don't have something to sell and you don't have a book, like most of the media you get, the consumer, is somebody who is out there because they have a book or because they're running for office or because they have some reason why it will help them. Whereas when you get someone where they just, have this, they're ready to tell their story, which is, I think, very unusual. And so now, of course, I want someone else like that, and there's nobody, it's...
What is she doing now?
She's just a lawyer with the little kids and the husband and,
Privately now?
Yeah, and she just is, but it is like, you get I'm on my book tour, and you think, I don't care, like, right? Like, or you're on that's the thing is to get someone where they really just want to tell you what it's like. And I happen to be very curious about what other people's experiences in the world are like.
Yeah.
So I want to know what that feels like. So
well, speaking of what that feels like in marriage, so the other big thing of last week is
the Peloton.
No, we'll get to Peloton. Yeah, we absolutely have to talk about Peloton, but the Conway marriage. I was just before we leave the White House entirely. So everybody, I can't believe your relatives.
So gossipy.
I can't believe your relatives
about the cosmological
in Houston.
arguments for the existence of God. And we're talking about the Conway.
Okay, come on. This has become the national soap opera, even more than Melania and Donald Trump. I think we can safely say even your relatives in Houston follow. Kellyanne Conway, presidential advisor, George Conway, her husband, lawyer, and it's War of the Roses over Twitter.
Yes.
But last week it came to a head. We don't know how or why they're still married, but hang on. The tweet was Kellyanne tweeted an unflattering video of Joe Biden called him out as Creepy Joe, and then she said, "We need Ukraine's help to defeat this guy," and her husband within seconds had tweeted back, your boss apparently thought so. And now it's like, this one's getting personal. So Molly, you kind of know.
I'm very friendly with George.
Okay, so it's without
betraying any
betraying any confidence.
I actually
What's
think.
going on?
I think, and I honestly think everything I'm saying here is something he would say to you, and I don't know that he would say it on the air, but he would certainly say it, and he's tweeted it, is that, I think he's very conservative. He's a lawyer. He's very smart. He's actually very, very smart. I think that when you're a lawyer, you care about the law. Mm-hmm. And if there's one thing Trump does not care about, it's the law. And so I myself am not a lawyer. I did not go to law school and practice law for many, many years. But for a lot of those lawyers, even lawyers who are Republicans, even lawyers who were Trumpy, like George Conway was originally very Trumpy, I think that the constant breaking of the law really wears on them.
Well, but you care about the law more than your wife?
I think that...
Or marriage?
I think if you worry that democracy is imploding and that your wife is involved in the sale of that.
Enabling it.
Yeah, I think if it were me and my husband were... I think it must be very hard to watch her selling this every night. I can't, to me, I could see how you would, that the morality would eventually just wear on.
Then why not like what we said about Melania? Don't compromise yourself. I know life isn't this simple, but
don't they have five children?
They have 4 kids.
4 kids.
4 kids, right? Small children.
And they're Catholic, may not believe in
they're
divorce.
Catholic.
Or separate, but I guess...
look, I think that, like with Melania, it would be amazing if these people would just live their truths and go forth.
Do a tell-all book.
Right, do a tell-all book. Come to us first for a nice, long, juicy interview.
Again, people are complicated, and you can't
never
begin
know.
to fathom what goes on.
And a long-term marriage is a marathon and not a sprint.
Right.
Well,
I guess with it, what we got used to in this type of thing was the James Carville, Mary Madeline under Clinton, and that was like a TV show. Like they honed their differences. She's a Republican. He's a Democrat. How did they get along?
Right.
And they would come on TV together and they would fight on TV together. I think what's so excruciating watching this is there's no shtick to this. There's no shtick to what George is doing. And even though she's doing it seems a shtick with the president, she's clearly, and we've read that she's very upset by his tweets. Yeah. And they kind of shoot at each other through the press, through interviews, through Twitter.
I just think I think with all of this stuff, Trumpism is not the same as Democrat versus Republican. Mm-hmm. Democrat versus Republican is, where are you on paid family leave? Where are you on the carried interest loophole? Where are you on Medicare? Trumpism is like, do you worship at the cult or not? We saw that during the impeachment trials where the guy said, I can't remember what congressman it was, but he said, raise your hand if you voted for Trump. Yeah. This is not a nuanced thing. This is you're either on the Trump train or you're not. And so I think some of these kind of phenomena are the fallout of Trumpism being this singular idol worship of this one person. Because remember, if you think of the tenets of Trumpism, right? What are they? They're not free trade, right? They're not. They're tariffs and protectionist trade. They're not anything. It is Trump. Trump is Trumpism. And so that is why I think that ultimately you really do have, in the end, you're going to have casualties from that.
Well, we've had casualties. There's always casualties in administrations that I'm thinking about during Clinton. Monica Lewinsky was a big,
for sure. And also, what's his name, the lawyer?
Vince Foster.
Yeah. No, there are casualties for all of these
but everything seems to be about, I guess, the way to end this part is just like every person has become a walk-on part, a personality. But you say it's not about these issues as much as it is about what role are you playing in the Trump reality show?
But also he's run through so many people that half of Washington, D.C. has worked at that administration now. I mean, if you're on the Trump train, you've cycled through.
So all the Democrats have to do is to run a candidate who is just marginally electable.
Right.
And I'm telling you, if they nominate Bernie, and that could happen, or if they nominate Elizabeth Warren, it's over. Trump will win.
Well, so you're
like Nixon, that second Nixon.
And I'm hoping it will be Biden, or I like
the malarkey tour. Okay, Boomer. That's way before Boomer.
By the way, Max's new thing, instead of Okay, Boomer, woke teenage son who you can follow on Twitter, my socialist son, his new thing is Okay, Schumer. That is like the worst put down you can have, is to be Chuck Schumer. I said, well, Chuck Schumer's not a bad senator. Right. I said, he's very good for that. And he said, okay, Schumer.
Somebody just has to do that, in the House. That would be very, or, in Congress. That would be very funny. This is all fine. People's lives being ruined, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the real story. The real story of last week, which is the Peloton ad. Can we talk about this Peloton ad, or is it too
salacious?
Is it too spicy? So for those who were in some sort of bunker, let me just pull it up here. Here we go. Here are the highlights. Okay, so Peloton, which you have a Peloton, right, Christina?
I do.
Do you use it as a clothes hook, or do you actually use it?
I've rarely used it, but I keep buying things around.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Do you get up at 5 to use it?
Oh, I've never. But I have used it like at 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah?
On some rock music, but
it's like a $2,100, maybe more, bike that connects to the internet. And you have classes. You have like spin
I've never taken a class. What they have that I like, or now I'm bored with, that you can press a button and go on a tour of Tuscany.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Drive through the Alps.
Yeah,
it's fun up to a point.
You're still having to cycle.
It's not even the cycling. It's just you get bored with it, and it's not really like going through the country.
No, it's not.
Because there's that brassiere hanging over the handlebars.
No, now I want to bring a TV in there and watch the TV, which means that basically I should just have stuck with an exercise bike.
Well, right. But so anyway, so the Peloton is this interactive. You can do these spin classes, and so they did, and it's a kind of what yoga pant wearing demographic, which I proudly belong to.
Touch point, yeah.
And it's also the ad was very heteronormative,
right. So it's holiday
she's
commercial.
also wearing a lot of makeup for someone who just woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I wear makeup when I go on my Peloton.
Right. But you don't.
I dress for my Peloton.
You don't wear I did all this TV stuff, and so I had all this
Your
TV
hair looked
makeup.
Fabulous.
Well, I had a lot of TV makeup. But, I had all this TV makeup, and it really is different than normal makeup.
Yeah.
And you can't get it off.
And I feel like a brazen hussy. I go out in the street and I look.
Right, it's true. No, you definitely look. My kids, I came home in between one of the hits and my kids were like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? It's scary.
I always feel very glamorous. I want to go out for dinner. But anyway, the ad was titled, this was Peloton's holiday ad. It was titled The Gift That Gives Back. And it shows a woman receiving a Peloton bike from her husband on Christmas morning. And the face that she does, like, thanks. That's the sort of freeze frame that's gone around the internet, where she's like, thanks, but no thanks. And then, as the story says, she then documents her year-long fitness journey in selfie videos before compiling the clips into a thank you video for her husband. And this has been branded, the commercial, as sexist, misogynistic, cringeworthy, and that it encourages negative stereotypes by implying that a husband will get a more attractive wife in return for giving her the exercise bike. So you both watched the commercial?
I'm going to defend this ad.
Okay. Yeah. So
yes,
what was your thought?
The fault, it had faults. For example, she's a very bad actress. And I think the weird facial expressions are, she lacks that capacity. What's wrong? I mean, I would have been glad if somebody gave me my Peloton.
You wouldn't. What if it were your husband? You wouldn't find it rather pointed?
No. I did have a boyfriend once who gave me makeup.
Well, you apparently, as we've learned from this podcast, were a serious makeup deficit in your hippie days.
I was a hippie chick. Yeah.
In fact, it was a famous transsexual who told you how to put on makeup.
It was Candy Darling at Kansas City.
Very famous. Very famous.
She said, "But you could be a very attractive girl, but you need some makeup."
Okay, but that's the 70s. So a boyfriend, that's a little pointed. But what about an exercise bike? Did you watch it? Did you find it?
I mean, I just found it silly, but this is a tempest in a teapot. It's ridiculous, and I think it's actually people are just. I think it's more class antagonism.
I think there was a lot to that. This is the yoga pant wearing,
just hating the yoga pant wearer.
But you know what's dumb about this commercial is. People really like this bike. Like, I don't have one, but I know a lot of people who love it and who are really obsessed with it. And, like, I have a friend whose husband bought it, and he's down in the basement all the time doing it. So how they manage to squander this opportunity to just have videos of people using the bike because they like it a lot. Right. You don't need to have it's almost like the advertisers were like too smart for their own good, and they were like, we're going to tell a story. Like, the product is good. People like it. Like, just tell that story.
I think it's more a little bit. I think what is feeding the anger and backlash is it's first of all it's a
expensive.
Woman. Well, there's the class thing, but then it's a woman and a husband is giving this to his wife. She's
right.
In the ad. She's obviously a fit woman, but I think this feeds in why people are so mad. It feeds into the whole fat shaming phenomenon of women,
right.
And that even though we have this massive obesity epidemic, we're not allowed, like shaming. I'm not for fat shaming. It's not good, and it won't help people.
Right.
But you fat shamed me in the past.
You fat shame me? No, no. But it's a real problem, and we're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to.
Wait, the fat shaming?
No, the obesity. Like, we're supposed to celebrate being fat, and women are supposed to celebrate being fat. And how dare you give this Peloton bike to a woman? Are you suggesting she's fat? That's right.
Oh, this is the other thing. She wasn't fat. He wasn't giving it to her because she was
about
fat.
100 pounds.
About 100.
No, but do you think?
But I would say
that?
That she, who knows? She could have diabetes or something. She could have, she needs to have, it's healthy for everyone. Listen to me. It helped me.
Healthy for everyone.
It's healthy for everyone.
But I think that's the thing, that we have this. We do have an obesity problem, and we need to talk about it. But no one is facing it. Like, instead of saying, well, maybe the husband could have got on the bike too and they could have been healthy together, it's like, how dare you? How dare you even suggest? And how would you raise, let's say your wife or your husband is kind of overweight and you're worried about them. How do you raise that tactfully? I mean, it's maybe like a drinking problem or something. It's a difficult thing.
Right.
So maybe giving her a Peloton bike isn't the best solution, but what would these are things we have to face.
I mean, my sense is that some of the problems too. I mean, I don't know. I thought some of the problems were that it was like that Lexus commercial where they, that it was meant to look like that Lexus commercial where he buys her the car. And it's a holiday to remember because he's bought her a car.
I'd much prefer the car.
But I feel like
David, take the hint.
I feel like there was that trope of like that it was like he was trying that because it looked so much like that previous commercial. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's certainly the reaction to it was quite something.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was like amazing that they could squander this opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's a big fail. They lost something. it was down 9.5%, but it
it's
worked out
back.
to like billions.
It's back.
Yeah.
942
Yeah,
million
yeah, that
Right.
was in the story, but what they didn't say is in a few days.
Right. But it is. But like,
Yeah,
imagine.
how do you screw up?
Right, being this advertiser with this
Yeah.
stuff that people actually like and just completely making an international incident out of it. I mean, I think some of it was just that people, that it just rubbed people the wrong way. I mean, I also think there's like an anti-wealth thing happening right now.
The elite,
Right, and I think that,
Jacobins.
right, and that is,
Sans culotte.
right, and that can certainly be,
Well, but you know what? If the elite buy things,
right,
why
then
can't advertising be directed at the
Right.
there is a kind of
The mistake of the advertisers is that they should have been woke. It shouldn't have been a family, certainly not a husband-wife. They should have had like a blended, it
What
should
if
have
a
been
gay couple and one gay man had given the Peloton to another gay man?
yeah, better. Or a commune.
but I don't know. I mean, this is like one of those things that's like,
And don't think that doesn't happen with gay couples. Yeah. There's a lot of fat shaming and policing.
And yeah, maybe we're just now also overreacting to absolutely
everything.
Right.
everything, including apparently now the thermostat. And Molly, before you
now
go,
this I'm passionate
you
about.
really wanted to talk about this.
I know you are because we are in a studio that's a little warm, frankly, and
I
you're
find
wearing
it
a
cold.
hat.
Oh, I'm always cold. And I have to say, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Alana Plott, who writes for The Atlantic and is very smart. Or was it her? No. You know who it was? It was a woman I really think is smart and great, who writes for the New York Times now, who does sort of internet culture. And she had tweeted, I can't remember her name now, it's gone out of my head, but she had tweeted something about how it's always too cold in offices for women. It's because it's very cold. And she had gotten so ratioed, and people had been so mad at her about the fact that they had said you're wrong, that it's always too hot, and a lot of men had gotten really mad at her. My husband and I have literally the biggest war going about the temperature of the bedroom.
Could be what's going on in the Conway household. Maybe it's really just about the thermostat.
He opens the window in the bedroom in the winter.
I do that.
Oh, I do that.
I'm freezing. I have a sweater. I have like a special extra blanket. He's going to kill me.
There's nothing worse than a hot room when you try to go to sleep.
Okay. This is okay, but this is important, Christina, because I'm sure you're going to weigh in on this gender divide.
Talk about this
There's a study which was published in something called the journal PLOS, and it found that men who definitely like cooler temperature.
Right.
The study found that men thought any discussion about setting the home's temperature lower or higher was a compromise, whereas the women approached it as a conflict. So right there, it's a problem, and that there's a gender bias in setting. Sorry, there is a gender bias in thermostat settings that, according to a 2015 paper, temperatures in office buildings appear to be based on the heat needs of a 40-year-old, 154-pound man, and that gender bias actually has an effect on worker productivity.
Because we're freezing.
No, that women perform...
They have to wear suits and ties, and we can wear sundresses.
But also, women perform at higher levels on mental tasks when they are warmer, so you can argue that.
I don't believe that. I do not.
Well, men tend to function better at cooler temperatures, and one study tested verbal and math skills of Berlin college students and found that increasing the temperature from the 60s to the 70s Fahrenheit improved female math scores by 15%, and men's scores dropped by 3%.
Yes.
With the same temperature variation, and clothing did not explain it.
Has that study been replicated?
Both sexes wore T-shirts and shorts
a bit
during the
sketchy.
exams. I don't know. I saw it on TV. But so how do you resolve it? What happens? Do you just fight all the time, or what?
I close the window.
And then he gets up and he opens
The
it.
window, yes.
It's like the honeymooners.
It's well, we both, luckily we travel. So one of us is away. The other one can make it freezing or burning hot in the bedroom.
Maybe that's why Melania's upstairs. He's upstairs.
Maybe that's right. That explains it. It's all so simple.
I mean, that's the only answer that makes sense, right?
Well, all right. Well, Molly, is there anything else? Do you have any other observations?
Okay, there's an article about women spreading. I suspect you may have been guilty of.
Oh yes,
just
because
based on
she's about to get back on the train.
Look at her bag.
I got to go back to New York.
I travel with bags like that.
Okay,
and I sit in it
for our listeners. First of all, there's a big cheetah jacket, which is awesome.
Which is mine, yeah.
We should take a picture.
A zebra, we'll take a picture.
Yeah.
A zebra knapsack, and then a very lurid but chic tote bag. And I'm imagining when you get on the train to go back to New York, you put all of that in a pile.
I use the overhead. Because I'm a good citizen, and I know.
Don't you put all your stuff out and pray no one wants the seat next to you?
I
don't do that.
Revealed
Christina. That's very women's plan.
Yeah. I put a sandwich down.
Oh, it's one of your awful sandwiches.
Did I bring one that I brought from home?
Did you start coughing like?
Coughing is the best. And I've done that in Europe. Yeah,
the thing about Amtrak is on the way here I had a backwards facing seat.
Does that actually bother you?
Yeah, it's terrible. But I'm so dyslexic I can never figure out what which is one is backwards facing until I'm like all of a sudden just going backwards, feeling I'm going to throw up. Backwards facing seat. And I was sitting next to someone who had pushed their computer lid back so that I couldn't quite get mine open.
Oh,
and
that's like computer spreading.
Computer spreading. Because on that Acela, there's not quite enough room for two to be open.
And the seats are always full. I mean, you can never have your own seat.
Why are the seats so uncomfortable? They made this fancy train.
And the tickets it's more so than
flying.
Taking the
Except flying it depends. If you book flying 2 weeks ahead, it's cheaper. But if you book it the day before, which is how everyone goes to D.C., it's
Well, I don't get with American trains, and if you've been on trains in any other country in the world, our trains are the worst.
The worst.
Like you go on just regular commuter train in England, and the Wi-Fi, it's got amazing Wi-Fi. Yeah. You know, you've assigned seats. It's all very orderly. And here our trains, even the new trains, are terrible.
Delicious
the Wi-Fi never works.
Yeah.
And there's that quiet car with
that's the Presbyterian
angry
car.
Presbyterians.
I hate that. Dave and I always fight about this. This quiet car is in this on the trains to between New York and Washington. You can go and you can sit and you can't talk on your cell phone.
You can't talk at all.
You know what I did? I once had to sit there.
I hate that car.
I hate that car. But I put on a video with my earphones, and I didn't realize it. It was blasted.
But they
get nuts.
Oh, they're filled with. So David loves it, and that's our fight. Like
it's the Michael Bloomberg car.
Is it the quiet car?
There.
Well, no, it's the idea. What David had this great shtick about Michael Bloomberg, where he was saying, he's like, people shouldn't be allowed to drink sodas, and they should be.
Well, he's a quiet car because if you. I remember my phone rang.
Right.
I hadn't put it on silence.
Oh, you'll get demerits.
But I leapt up. I fell on it like a
Right.
bomb. And then I shuffled it out.
Not good
and
enough.
Even then, there was a woman looked at me and goes, shh.
Oh, yeah, they're terrible.
Like you think, I bet you don't even dance. I bet you're against everything. Yeah, it's the Michael Bloomberg car.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so.
I'm going to take a boombox onto the car.
Why don't we just
turn it on
and the three of us
and just make a scene?
Make a scene like what?
That'll be really fun. That's good. When it's in playbook, we'll be really happy.
We're gonna take over. We're gonna bring down the quiet car. All right.
Right.
Well, speaking of quiet cars, you got to get to your train.
Yes.
So Molly, thanks.
Thank you.
Let us know when you're next coming by. I'll defrost more chicken.
That's right. That
Get you in the
chicken was
studio
really
again.
Good. The asparagus. Your asparagus is my favorite thing.
We got to get that recipe.
It was so.
She won't give you that recipe.
It was
she won't give you
like
my miso
melted.
asparagus?
It was so good. I couldn't believe it. But that tart that you had last night.
Okay, that was Whole Foods.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it lemon or
No, it was like a
Almond.
Cake de Bretagne or something.
It was incredible. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is the best."
Yeah,
thing
they
I've ever
kind of
eaten."
were excited about my bought cake. Okay.
All right,
Thanks, Molly. Thanks, I guess.
Right, but
It's always fun. All right. Well, always great gossiping with you. And don't miss your train. But whatever you do, don't get in the quiet car by mistake. And then go adjust the thermostat on it.
that's right.
So, Christina, you know what I'm going to be buying my friends and family as gifts for this holiday? Spoiler alert. Quip toothbrushes. And you know why? Not just because they make a great toothbrush, but because they are so stylish. They're so pretty. I never thought you could have a toothbrush that was just so pretty and sleek, and they come in so many different color combinations. They have matte black, metallic pink, that you'll actually want to keep them out on your bathroom counter. And they start from only $25, dramatically less than other electric toothbrushes.
Well, I've told you I love my Quip toothbrush, and it helps me keep up my good brushing habits. Quip's electric brush, it has these very sensitive sonic vibrations with a built-in timer and 30-second pulses that guide you, while you're brushing. So you can't just, fail to clean your teeth. It forces you to do it. And they have this floss dispenser. And the Quip floss dispenser comes with pre-marked string to help you use just enough. Plus, Quip delivers fresh brush heads, floss, and toothpaste refills to your door every 3 months with free shipping. So it's just routinized. You can't go wrong.
And just to go back to its great style, it has this multi-use cover that works as a stand. It mounts to mirrors, and it slides over your bristles to pack and protect your Quip on the go. So it makes traveling with an electric toothbrusher easier. Plus, there are no wires or a clunky charger. I hate those. And it runs for 3 months on a single charge.
And if you go to getquip.com/femsplain, and you go there right now, you will get your first refill for free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/femsplain, spelled GETQUIP.com/femsplain.
And that's to get your first refill free.
Oh, it's so much fun talking to Molly. I enjoyed her.
Molly's always the best company. Do you worry sometimes? I was thinking of our yoga pant discussion, our
Air conditioning.
our Acela train complaints. Do we sound like East Coast liberals, elite liberals? Well, somebody has to have podcasts for them, right?
Right.
Like we are who we are. We need to embrace
Yes.
who we are.
I have a Peloton, and I'm proud of it.
I have a Peloton I don't use.
I don't use
I'm
it.
proud of it.
Can I get credit for never using it? It just sits there like a reproach in a spare bedroom.
Scowling at you.
Yeah.
I was thinking of, how the yoga pants have become a meme. For the listeners who don't know this, that yoga pant wearing women in certain incel worlds are like triggers for those type of elite women you can't kept women at home who are, out of reach of crazy incels. Am I characterizing it correctly? Or just that type of woman who wears yoga pants?
Yeah.
I realize that there's probably going to be the sans culottes of the yoga pants will be the sans yoga pants. What will it be that when they come after us to strip us of our yoga pants? And
I know if there is a revolution by, Antifa and the incels somehow team up, we're the first to go.
The yoga pant wearing, yeah.
The Peloton owning, Acela
highlighted. I remember I was getting highlights. I was getting ready to have highlights in my hair, and I said to David, do you like the highlights the way they are? Should I make them a little lighter? He goes, look, all I want is to be able, if I walk up to the school where, there's watching a kid's game or something, I want to be able to, from behind, to be able to tell you who you are out of the lineup. Because there's just this lineup of mothers, all with exactly the same highlighted hair, wearing yoga pants. And so I had to make sure that I said, "What do I get? Pink highlights? What do I do?" But it's just it is like I am a meme. I accept that.
But you know what's also a meme is women who grow older and do not highlight their hair and just let it be long and gray. That's a statement, too.
That gray is sort of having its back in fashion, but it's always, when you see it in magazines, the women are always so phenomenally beautiful. They're like Lauren Bacall or something, and it's not gray. It's kind of silver, and it's swept, and and you think, no, it's not going to look like that. It's going to look unkempt. You're just going to look old.
Yeah.
And the reason we lighten our hair is as we get old because it looks better. If you have dark hair around your face, it just it's like putting bad lighting on. It's like throwing your face into stark relief. We don't have that beautiful Ella skin. Look, Ella's got gorgeous brunette hair and perfect skin, and she doesn't need to put in highlights.
To draw attention away from it.
Yeah. Well, Ella, just since you're here looking radiant and beautiful, we have some
a lot of compliments.
We have time. We have time for a little listener feedback, and then this way Christina doesn't have to talk. You're not even it makes me sad. You're not even putting Nicorette in. You're putting lozenges in your mouth. Oh, that's sad.
So sad. These will help with the cough.
Okay.
So we do have some listener reaction from Earl, who wrote to us last about Printers Alley in Nashville.
He's our gay band leader, Earl.
Yes, same man. He says, "Well, that was a hoot to hear you all address my feedback on the podcast. Thanks so much for that. I guess I might just be a curmudgeon about games."
He complained he thought millennials and younger playing board games in public. He felt that it was because they couldn't interact as humans because they're so used to interacting on, phones. And we defended them. We said this was actually a return to human interaction to get away from the phone. But anyway, yes. But we don't think you're a curmudgeon, Earl.
He said he thought the conversation with Paula Brown about aesthetics was very interesting. He said he definitely will be checking out the book. And Foucault, who many in your circle scoff at, was a champion of an aesthetic life towards the end of his career. He wonders if Christina's opinion of the man's work is as low as Paglia's, Peterson's, Douglas Murray's, etc. Invitation always open down at Skull's Rainbow Room in Printers Alley.
Well, I don't have such a low opinion
of Foucault.
I went to Paris in 1971. I lived there and studied and went to his lectures. And at the time, even now.
So you knew Foucault?
No, you couldn't know him. He had an entourage. You couldn't get past that entourage.
But you went to his lectures.
I went to his lectures.
Yeah.
I went to his lectures. And his book, History of Madness, Histoire de la Folie, is brilliant. And he was a genuine, just original. And so I have respect for him. I think he's very different from someone like Derrida and the lesser theorists that were that are associated with him. I think that he was a genuine philosopher, but he was a bizarre guy.
Well, explain his central philosophy, that why he's held in contempt, or by certain types, and he did kind of destroy a lot of the way we approach thinking. And
yes, well, he forced us to see how societies have a tendency towards authoritarianism, but a very deep form of authoritarianism that's embedded in institutions and carried through institutions. And he kind of showed how there had been leper colonies and how those evolved into prisons, and then the prison system was replicated by the factory system. And he was just brilliant at pointing out this regimentation and dehumanization that can happen, and that we might not see because he taught you to be more observant And so there was I thought in his writing, a sort of humanism that came through, and not what his critics say, that he was, a nihilist. Where he was a little nihilistic was in his personal life. He was quite out there, and I won't even go into the things that he did. But let's
Would
just
he
say,
be canceled now?
he might.
Maybe he will be canceled by the left.
He could be canceled.
They'll have to accept.
But I thought he had original mind. He just.
Yeah, and he's referring to our guest Pauline Brown, whose book Aesthetic Intelligence was just so fascinating. And well, thank you, Earl, and we will come down to the Skulls Rainbow Room should we find ourselves in Nashville again. Was there more, Ella?
Yes, there is indeed. So this is from Rust. He says, "Dear Christina and Danielle, I'm a big fan of your podcast and have listened to most episodes. Your episode with Emily Yoffe was especially enlightening, but I'd like to talk about a topic that comes up fairly often in your discussions, the decline of sex in marriage. Like any complex social phenomenon, these declines probably have multiple interrelated causes, which should make us skeptical of simple explanations. But what is so frustrating about this topic is the fact that almost everyone talking and writing about it is ignoring the simplest and most obvious explanation: the obesity epidemic."
Ooh, we just talked about that.
Even writers as sharp as Kate Julian seem to have never asked themselves why two people would be motivated to have sex. Maybe, just maybe, part of that explanation is physical attraction. Mm-hmm. Like everything dealing with the sexes, things are not equal. Heterosexual men value physical attractiveness in their prospective partners more than heterosexual women do. As such, there is a good reason to think that the prevalence of female obesity in particular is a culprit in the decline of sexual activity and pair bonding. If you live in a particularly lean city like San Francisco or New York, you may not have noticed just how fat we've become, but the numbers don't lie. The average American woman now weighs over 160 pounds. This isn't just a middle-aged phenomenon. 34% of women are ages 20 to 39 are obese, and 3/5 are categorized as overweight or obese. If you think this has little or nothing to do with the frequency of sexual activity in the American population, you have no idea what it feels like to be a heterosexual man. That might be true. There may be reasons to be skeptical of this hypothesis that I haven't considered. And like any hypothesis, it could be flat wrong. Still, the fact that virtually nobody in this discourse is even discussing our expanding waistlines is a tad mystifying. I hope you revive this topic. In any case, keep up the good work, and thanks for all your insights and humor."
Well,
Ooh.
we know there's some truth in what he says.
Yeah, and we can also say, just to be fair, I mean, men are fat too. I mean, everybody is getting fat, which is a big problem. And, but I take it, so we've sort of discussed, I mean, obesity is part of it, but also, didn't we recently talk about women not sort of getting themselves up, like going on dates, like taking, I guess we talked about it with Pauline Brown about
Making the effort.
And maybe that's a part of it too. But I would say it's,
well, it's almost as if
sexist.
now in the society now there's a tendency to shame anyone who wants to sort of celebrate heterosexual attraction, and so
like that Peloton woman.
And we demonize that. Now, stipulate it can go too far, and the ad was basically so poorly acted. The acting was so bad. But why shouldn't we do that? And why shouldn't you be encouraged to keep, a certain spark alive in your marriage? And I will say, when you are in good shape, it's not just that you're more attractive to your partner. You feel sexier if you're in good shape.
Right. Well, I remember there was a period when David, my husband, was working. We worked in the White House, and he then left, and he wrote a book. And
He got really fat. Is that what?
No, he didn't get really fat. But he did get heavier, and because he didn't have time to work out, Now he's a maniac. I mean, my God, it's like created a monster.
He created a monster. I've seen him. We were in someplace.
Nashville.
He went up and down. The ladies,
hotel stairs.
They wouldn't let me do it. They said it was too dangerous.
And David's upstairs,
He's up
running up and downstairs. But anyway, there was this period, and, I do have an attitude that it doesn't matter if I'm married or dating or whatever, but I have an obligation to keep myself attractive. And I said to him when he was getting kind of heavy, I said something to the effect of, this like a confession of, I care too. And he said, I've never forgotten that. And he went out and he got really fit. And, but I think there's some truth to it. I think there's also maybe that's sticking in our listeners' craw, as it were, that this whole, what Megan Daum called the kind of badass phenomenon, like, I can just wear anything. I can be 900 pounds. I can dye my hair blue, and you have to accept it. You have to like me because I'm a badass. And if you have a problem with that, Buster, it's your problem, not mine. Like, that's very aggressive. and it's not about thinking, about maybe it's just the problem is the obesity or whatever it is a sign that we're not thinking enough about what the others thinks.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's not a bad thing.
It's a way of, just being connected to someone and wanting to be attractive for them and healthy for yourself. And it doesn't mean you could be a big woman. Big women can be very sexy, but they're fit. You can be fit, even if your metabolism you're not going to be a skinny little thing. But there are many, many ways to be attractive. But just letting everything go and not exercising is kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Relationship.
And you can't, as we discovered, you can't be critical of anything. It is interesting. We talked about it a little bit with Molly, but how do you raise with someone any problem, like perceived problem, that's tactful? You wade into the "does this make me look fat, dear" problem of what would be the best way to
talk about somebody else having the problem. I've done that.
Do you think his wife has gotten very fat? How does he have sex with that person?
Yeah.
It must be like Marine World. SeaWorld story.
All right, next question.
Mutual of Omaha. Okay, is there any more, Ella, before we get... Oh, that will go viral for you, Christina. That will up your Twitter numbers.
Yeah, we do have one more. So this is from a person who shall not be named. But he wrote, "I was fired without warning for posting a link to war against boys. The URL was posted in a comment with nothing else."
This was a video based on Christina's book, War on Boys, right? It's up on YouTube or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was asked to delete it, which I did, but by then it was too late. I am reaching out to connect and find support from other people to talk about these issues. I want to stand with the truth. All is fine regarding new work. I found a new job, but now I know I have to be very careful with standing up for the truth. I am fairly sure I was fired illegally, but there's not much I can do about it. This is a modern-day equivalent of attempted excommunication, cancel culture. Thank you again for the video. It has helped me communicate in other ways. I have 2 boys who are 4 and 6 and already see these war on boys issues with their schools.
So you got someone fired, Christina. Oh. Good job.
I'm sorry.
Good job.
I'm amazed that the war on boys, that work that I do, it's the least controversial. I have people across the political divide who agree with me. And the New York Times made it a notable book of the year. And the New York Times isn't, cancelable. It's yep. in that sense. So I don't understand it. I could have understood it if you posted one of our podcasts.
Well, yeah, especially the last remarks. But I mean, I feel terrible. I reached back out to him when he said that this had happened. Now, of course, we never know. He could just be blaming you, Christina. He could just be. He was maybe.
Oh no, it sounds real.
No, but
somebody burnt the book once and posted it on Instagram. He burnt the book of the War Against.
Well, I mean, I feel terrible. I reached back out and he said, no. He said, it's all good. I've got a new job and it's fine. But as he points out, he feels he has to be super careful. But he really wanted to find a community to connect with others who, I guess, share the belief. I don't know where you would go for that except to
let me think.
Follow your Twitter and follow your follower Twitter. Quillette. Read Quillette. There's a lot of writers there who are good. They're not extreme. It's just sort of sensible reporting and writing. But but it also goes to this thing about, look, watching your video, The War on Boys, or privately posting it on your Facebook. This is what Molly was saying about people, witnesses being asked who they voted for. I mean, that we're really the blur between private life and professional life.
It's vanishing.
It's completely vanishing. That if somebody objects to something as benign as the War on Boys, hey, this is an interesting video. I mean, that's everything is being personalized, and that's what's I think extra disturbing about this story. It's not somebody who goes and links to a neo-Nazi thing. It's just something somebody disagreed with and clearly said outrageous. That made them, quote unquote, uncomfortable. So, anyway.
Very sorry that happened.
Yeah, well, blame you, Christina.
Yeah.
She's dangerous. She's a badass.
I know.
Anyway, is that it, Ella?
That's it.
All right. Well, I think we better give your voice a rest. I feel terrible sitting here watching you work.
Me to come today.
It's Dickensian in the studio.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. We love hearing your reaction. You'll reach out to us. Contact at Femsplainers is the most direct. But yes, write in and please join us on patreon.com and support us. We appreciate it. And have a good
Evaluate
day.
Us on Twitter, not Twitter. Evaluate us on where can they? on iTunes.
Yes,
and where other platforms.
Help support Christina. We can't afford her medicine.
I'm in trouble.
She's sick. All right, bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the Femsplainers. Keep up with us on Twitter and Facebook at Femsplainers and on Instagram at Femsplainers Podcast. Send questions and comments to contact@femsplainers.com.
A big thanks to Ella Ryder, our research and in-studio production assistant, and to Nat Frum, our audio and video editor. And we're proud to be part of the Ricochet Network and grateful to the American Enterprise Institute for allowing us to record in its studio every week in downtown Washington, D.C.
And miss something? You'll find everything you need at our homepage, femsplainers.com, including links to past episodes, our sponsors, where you can sign up to support us, and even to merch. And please don't forget to like us or give us 5 stars on iTunes.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.